Vince, why don't you take us into the oldest team in the league, I think.
This one's going to be fun, I think.
Team 3, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Starting at center, Mario Lemieux. On the wing, Gary Jagger. No, I'm kidding, guys.
Jagger is still playing professional hockey, by the way.
Yeah, at 53.
52 years old.
Who was the other guy that was just taking advantage of it? Stevens?
Yes, man. So basically, guys, this team was last year projected to have the number 1 or number 2 power play in the league. And instead, they had the 30th power play in the league at 15.3%. 38 wins, 32 losses. Who's in? Not anybody big. Kevin Hayes, Anthony Beauvillier, Matt Grzelcyk, who's out. Riley Smith, who honestly underachieved last year. Jeff Carter took his retirement. And Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who went to play with his brother, if I'm not mistaken. Tears. These guys have so many good players that we wish were still 26, 27 years old, but are not. But we do have one in Tier 1 at 91 plus points. The ageless wonder, Sidney Crosby. Can anybody debate this?
Find me.
Can anybody really debate this?
What are we debating?
Does Sidney Crosby not get 91 plus points?
No, for sure he gets 91 plus points. I mean, and credit to him, by the way, finally healthy, 82 games, 2 consecutive years, 93 points, 94 points. I think he continues off that. He's too good to say he's going to drop. And even if he drops, I don't think he drops that much. You know, you spoke about the power play, 24 points on the power play. For Sidney Crosby, that's not a lot. And when you have a 30th ranked power play, that explains it. But I expect way more than just 24 power play points from Sidney Crosby in 82 games, especially when you're playing 3 minutes and 35 seconds of the power play every game. Anyhow, look, his shooting percentage was a little high at 15% compared to the year before. But on average, it's about that, 15%. So I'm not too worried about his 42 goals. I think if something dips, it is the 42 goals. But he can, I see him... Look, like we said before, players like this, there's not much to say when they consistently prove you right?
It's unbelievable that at 37 years old, this guy is still putting up 94 point pace. 94 points, sorry, in a season. And 93 the year before that. So, absolute steal for anybody that managed to maybe trade in order to get Crosby because the other manager was saying, this might be my last chance to trade him because he's getting old. This guy, it was a generational player. He's still a generational player until he retires. Sidney Crosby is the real thing. He's still the real thing. And I still see him 91 plus points this year.
Perfect. Well, we're all in agreement with that.
If I was a Penguins fan, I'd be very worried that he's not signed to an extension yet. Especially when earlier in the summer, they were saying how it was very close.
Stop it. He's kind of he's not going
I'm not saying he's going to get traded. I just say I would start being worried because
how do you thinking Crosby's going to sign with the Habs?
I did not say that. I did not say he was getting traded. I'm just saying he's your legacy. After Mario Lemieux, he's the next best. And you don't have him signed to end his career. It doesn't make much sense to me, but we'll see.
We will see. Tier 2 with this team, 80 to 90 points. We do not have anybody hitting those points. The next tier and the next 2 players will be interesting discussion. Tier 3, 70 to 79. Let's go first with Gino Malkin. What do you guys think about Gino Malkin? Can he get back into his...
Well, I'll start with this one if you don't mind, Junior.
You go, Nick.
Yep.
So, Malkin had 67 points last year. The year before that, he had 83. The year before that, he was on pace for 84. He played 2 consecutive years out of 82 games. I still think he's kind of in between those 2 points. He shouldn't be a 67-point player. He should be at least in the 70s. And it was an off year for him this year. Now, the guy is 38 years old, so you start wondering, he's not necessarily that generational player that Crosby was, right? So is Father Time catching up with him? I still think that he's a top 100 player fantasy points wise in this current state of the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm not buying him as that point per game guy any longer. And I think it's not even, his shooting percentage was higher actually than it was the year that he had 83 points. His time on ice is exactly the same as the year that he had 83 points. Like nothing changed, but his points dropped. So is this the age kicking in, father time kicking in? Or is this just an off year and he should bounce back? That I'm not sure. It's risky.
I think a lot of what changed is he got only half the points on the power play. He had 36 power play points last year, the year before, and 18 only last year. There's something that nobody could figure out with this team, with the amount of talent they have, how they can muster up a decent power play.
Oh, I can tell you the problem.
I don't have much else to say, so go ahead.
Malkin, I believe he's not a point per game player anymore. But I do believe he can hit that. He hit 67 and they had the 30th power play in the league. So I think he can hit between 70 and 79, lower 70s. The problem with the power play is they don't know who's the quarterback. They tried Carlson and Letang. They thought that was going to be their combo. And then they tried Letang first because obviously he's the veteran and he was there. So basically, the Pittsburgh coaching staff needs to decide which one of those is taking power play one. If I'm the coaching staff, I take the next player we're going to talk about, which is Erik Karlsson. Erik Karlsson should be your number one power play guy. There's no questions about it. And unfortunately, last year, that's not what happened. And that's why I feel the power play ranked 30th. So Erik Karlsson is in the tier 3 of 70 to 79 points. Do you guys believe he can hit that again?
Yeah, it's hard to take a guy like that and with that much offensive talent and say he's never going to hit that again, or you know what I mean? He's 56 points last year, which is like not bad. I thought it was way worse, but for his sake, we're expecting much more. 11 goals, 45 assists. Shooting percentage was pretty fair, like dropped to 5%, but his average is about that, like only 17 power play points. I expect 20 plus power play points from Karlsson, like everybody else. I think the power play needs to get going in order for these players to hit what we expect of them in terms of points. And I don't know if maybe Michael Bunting coming in helps with the power play in front of the net. You get a decent option there, but yeah, we have him ranked at 70 to 79. I think it's going to be again in the 60 to 69 points. But would I be shocked if he's 70 to 79? Absolutely not.
It's funny because he had 101 points in 22-23. And we knew that wasn't going to be repeatable necessarily. But it's funny how Erik Karlsson is the type of player that when he's the lone alpha wolf on a team, his game elevates. Whereas whenever he has a Brent Burns next to him, for example, or whenever he has a Chris Letang next to him, it always seems that he just either A, shies away, or B, is just not as productive. And I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's a shooting thing, but he constantly plays 23 minutes or more of ice time. So it's hard to say that he's going to be a 50-point guy again. I feel like he should be in that 60 to 70 points. 70 to 80 is maybe shooting a little bit too high because he hasn't done it in so long that I can't. It's like a lottery ticket. I just don't have the faith that he's going to go back to that 100-point player or go back to an 80-plus point player.
I think you nailed the nail on the head with the number of minutes he's playing. I think it's too much. And the more, look, they're not a great greatly structured team.
He's 34
So
too.
if he's playing 24 minutes, a lot of that is hemmed into his own end. And they were playing from behind a lot, so he was losing a lot of energy at the end of games, playing like the last 8 of 10 minutes to get these guys back in the game. I think they have to limit his minutes, I think, and he could possibly be more effective. But like you said, I don't think he's that guy anymore. Is he still productive? Yeah, I think he could be easily a 60 to 69 point player. But I don't see him quite hitting 70 plus.
In cap leagues, it's not worth it.
No, unless you get retention. If you have a salary with retention.
Yeah.
$11 million? $11.5 million?
No, if you get retention, it's fine. But
for sure. But we're talking about his actual cap hit.
I think Mike Sullivan better have done his homework this summer, because he's not going to survive in Pittsburgh again.
So it's funny because I think it was 5 Hole Fantasy podcast that I was listening to, and they were saying that, Sullivan has this rep as being such a great coach. Yeah, it's great to be a great coach when you have Crosby, Malkin at their primes, Letang in their prime.
Give me Fleury, Crosby, Malkin, and Letang in their prime.
And I'll show you a good coach
behind the bench,
and
I'll
then
win
a
cups.
guy like Hornquist or
Gensel coming out of nowhere. Stop.
Kunitz. Come on.
right? So,
but last year has proven that Mike Sullivan cannot make the hard decision. Last year, the hard decision was to tell Chris Letang, you are no longer the number one defenseman on this team. That was the decision that was supposed to be made. Especially when you're getting a defenseman that came off a 101-point season. Your decision is made. You're getting that defenseman not to pair with Letang, to take over Letang's role. And he didn't have the courage to do that last year. Is he going to have the courage to do it this year? No idea. But Carlson will not hit 101 points. But if he gets that power play one duty on his own without another defenseman next to him, and instead of that gets 4 forwards around him, and 2 of those forwards are Crosby and Malkin, I guarantee you Carlson hits that 70 to 79 points.
Well, I mean, I might as well talk about Letang now, I guess, while we're at it.
He's in the next year, so we have him in the 60 to 69.
he already had power play at 1.
Right.
Carlson.
Yeah, Letang, they took that away from him. Only 6 power play points and only 1 minute 57 seconds on average a game.
Yes, but how much percentage did Letang have?
66.
And that's it. And Carlson had 36.
Yeah, so Carlson...
No,
Eric
Letang had
Carlson
36.
Eric Carlson had 66% of the power play time. He was power play 1 all the time.
Yeah.
And 36% of the time
Is Letang.
is Letang.
Okay.
So he was power play 2. He still didn't hit those numbers.
Yeah, but when Gensel was hurt,
And
when
the
Gensel
funny
was
thing
hurt,
is,
it was Letang
even
and
though
Carlson.
Letang was power play 2
Mm-hmm.
for the majority of the year, he still hit 51 points to Eric Carlson's 55 points.
And
he
I
didn't
think
even have the power play time.
and I think a lot of the power play time he did get was when they tried to put Carlson and Letang together on the power play.
Well, when Gensel was hurt, it was only Letang and Carlson. There was nobody else. It was Letang Carlson.
Yeah,
on the
but
power play.
he still didn't average anywhere near Eric Carlson's time on ice for power play.
But so just sticking with Letang here, the last 2 seasons he's paced for 53 and 51 points. I don't quite see him hitting the 60-point mark anymore. Does that make him not fantasy relevant?
How many defensemen in the league hit 50 points? It's not many.
Exactly. Is it a big drop off from the top tier? Yeah, of course. But I think he's still relevant at 50 points for a defenseman, 55 points for a defenseman.
At half the cost.
And look, if he does get some power play time somehow, more consistently, I could see that going up, or if Carlson gets hurt or something. Like, there's opportunity there that, look, regardless of Carlson's arrival, he still played 24 minutes a game.
Yeah.
So, and so did Carlson. So
the only thing
So
I'll say is
opportunities
that Letang might start the year a little bit injured. We'll see. He was in seen in a cast on his finger. So we'll see if he's ready for training camp this year, or if he's going to miss a little bit of time. But Letang, I think, value-wise, per dollar spent, is a better defenseman than Eric Carlson is for owning in a cap league.
per dollar, yeah, because Eric Carlson makes 11, but still at 7.25.
Oh no, Chris Letang is at 6.1
Yeah,
for the
guys,
next 4
okay,
years.
he
For the
rechanged
next
it.
4 years.
Okay, so this was 2022 salary that they gave me. Okay, so at 6.1, if he puts up 50 points, then yes. At 7.25, if he puts up 50 points, I don't think he's more relevant than that.
Yeah, it's his third year.
But
of,
he's
6.1.
also 38 years old. Already before the season starts, he shows up with a cast on his finger.
37 starting the year.
Yeah, he's gonna turn 38.
He's 37.3.
Yeah, but still,
He'll be 37 pretty much all year.
he's still 37
Regardless.
compared to Carlson's 34.
Still, we're talking about people past their primes, but
And
they're still productive.
his injury history too, like kind of makes him feel older, like we said with Couturier too. Anyways,
Listen, my opinion, Carlson gets more points than Letang this year.
Oh, he did it last year. But
I
barely.
agree. 100%.
So maybe Bunting. I'm guessing this is what Nick wrote. Okay, so let's talk about Bunting. What do we think about Bunting? This is Dubas's lover boy, we'll say.
I think Bunting these are the teams that he thrives with. Like this is the kind of team he needs, and I think he fits nicely in Pittsburgh. Look, he did it. He did it with Toronto. Austin Matthews, Nylander, Marner. He found ways to put up points. And his last year with Toronto, he had 23 goals, 26 assists, 49 points. He found a way to do it with Carolina, 36 points in 60 games. And look, when he started the year, the 21 games he played with Pittsburgh last year, 19 points in 21 games, just under a point per game. Obviously, is that sustainable through 82? I don't think so. But if he finds the chemistry with the talent he has around him, despite of their age, I think he can hit the 60-point mark. I don't see anyone competing with him for that position. And that role player, that style of player in the Penguins system, since Sullivan is still there, usually thrives. So if I had to, if there was a betting odds that had him at like 50 plus points, I would take the over 100%. I would bet money on the over.
Well, he had 55 points split time between Carolina and Pittsburgh last year. A full year of Pittsburgh, and hopefully their power play increases a little bit. I could easily see him at 60 points. He had a 55 points last year in 81 games, 56-point pace. So 4 more points, yeah, give me that. I'll take that.
So if you guys see Bunting at that, do you see Brian Rust hitting those also in that tier from 60 to 69?
Rust hasn't. So when I take a look at Rust, right, he had a 74-point pace last year.
Mm-hmm.
He hit 56 points. The year before that, only 47 points. The year before that, 79-point pace. The year before that, 62. So, yes, it's very likely that if Pittsburgh gets it back together a little bit, that he could hit that 60 points again.
Yeah, he ended the season strong last year, 20 points in 20 games. He should be in that range because like him and Rust, I think him and Bunting will be top 6 wingers. They'll both have equal opportunity. I think they
Both probably on different lines, right? One with
yeah,
Malkin,
that's what I
one
meant.
with-
One on each line. I see him there. I see him at 60 points. Yeah, I think he hits 60 between 60 and 69 points.
Which one of them takes Gensel's spot on the power play?
I think Bunting had it last year, but probably maybe both.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do Letang Carlson. They go with now the not so common 2 defensemen on the power play.
Yeah, well, Daily Faceoff has Crosby with Malkin, Rust, and Bunting, and Eric Carlson as the number 1 power play unit. And you know what? I kind of agree with it. The only other person that could possibly take it is Raquel. Kevin Hayes is not going to take it, right? Unless they have a specified role for him. So, and I'm not crazy about Beauvillier or Puustinen.
No, Puustinen is going to end up being one of those waiver wire pickups throughout the year where he goes on a little bit of a run, but I don't foresee him anywhere close to one of our tiers. That's for sure.
Okay, so next power play demon. I mean, we're not going to spend time on this. We spoke about it. It's Eric Carlson and Chris Letang. There's no one else on that team that's going to be close to taking up their spots. So how about we go straight to a struggle last year, even though it doesn't look in the numbers, but their goalie tandem. We had Tristan Jarry who had a save percentage of .903, which isn't bad. Goals against 2.91, little high. 18th in goal saves against above expected
at 5-on-5.
at 5-on-5. And then you had his backup, Alex.
Nedeljkovic.
You go, Nick. Save percentage .902, goals against average 2.97, which is high. The GSAE 50th on 5-on-5. What, Junior? Since you're a Jarry owner, what are you?
We're all Jarry owners.
Yeah, I own him now in 2 leagues.
Yeah, we are Jarry. So Junior, what do we think about Jarry? Is he? Because basically a playoff spot, we can say Pittsburgh's playoff spot will depend on how their goalies do.
Yeah. Now, look, for 2 consecutive seasons, he had a 2.9 goals against average. On an aging team with not a great defensive decor, I don't see it getting better. His save percentage was .903 this year, like you said, .909 the year before, .919. So, like, his save percentage was never extraordinary. I think because he was on a winning team, it just made him look better. But I think this is who Jarry really is. He just needs to win more games to be more fun, like nicer to have in fantasy. Because right now he's absolutely useless. In fact, if you lose points based off save percentage, I don't think he's startable right now. And Nedeljkovic took over for him last year. And luckily for us, the team we took over in DPR, we have Jarry, Nedeljkovic, and the Russian guy. But I think we traded him.
We traded Murashov.
But we traded him, yeah. Anyways, look, I'm not on good terms with Jarry right now. Not on good terms.
Nick.
54.9% quality start percentage. It's not great. It means that every second game that he plays is not that great. And to me, that's a little bit of a Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what you're getting when Jarry starts. Only 19 wins last year, even though he played 51 games. It hurts. It hurts, especially if your fantasy league counts wins highly for goaltending. He has the opportunity to rebound. We've seen Jarry kind of do that in the past, where he'll kind of play better, like, and then worse, and then better. So I kind of feel like he is who he is. Half the games you'll get a pretty good goalie. Half the games you won't.
Listen, every third win, he got a shutout. Because he ended with 6 shutouts with 19 wins.
Which is probably not repeatable.
No, definitely not. And I'm looking at...
Red flag there.
Yeah, but it's always when you have more shutouts and the wins that 19, it's a complete red flag. But Alex, Nick?
Nedeljkovic.
Yeah, his season wasn't so bad. 18 wins, 7 losses. Do you think he can take this job, the starting position at least, from Tristan Jarry?
I not necessarily. Even though they won with Nedeljkovic in there, I don't think Nedeljkovic actually performed better than Jarry. I think it's more luck.
No, because his goals against was 2.97.
I think the team kind of just... Sometimes it happens the team plays better with a certain goalie for whatever reason.
But his goal save above expected was even worse.
Yeah.
That's what scares me. Only a 42% quality start percentage. That's worse, right? So all the micro stats are telling you he's worse than Jarry.
I think what ended up happening was
Except the wins.
Jarry was too bad in the second half of the season that they had no choice to go with Nedeljkovic, because I failed to mention it earlier, but in the third quarter of the season, Jarry had an .896 save percentage, a goal save above expected of -2.8. And then in the final quarter, in 10 games, only 2 wins, .450 goals against average, .874 save percentage, 1 quality start, quality percentage 10, and a -7.8 goal save above expected. So his second half was so brutal that we could have went in nets and probably put up better numbers.
What did Dubas see in Jarry when he was to give him that kind of extension?
I don't know. I think he might be regretting it, but it's not the first time Dubas gives contracts that make no sense.
Look, Dubas has come into a role here where he kind of has his hands tied, where they want to still compete while Crosby's around, but at the same time start rebuilding some prospect pools at the same right. So I mean, he's a little bit hands tied behind his back, but it just feels like this guy is not good at negotiating contracts. I don't know.
So, going into one of our prospects, since we're talking about goalies and since we already mentioned his name,
It's called a professional segue.
oh,
I like it.
That.
I like it.
Vince was professional. Sergei Morozov signed his entry-level contract. He will be playing the AHL. Came from Russia. Had 6 starts in the KHL. 3 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties. .925 save percentage. Goes against 1.84. If he played most of the year in the MHL. He had a phenomenal season. 24 wins, 4 losses, 5 ties, a .930 save percentage, 2.03 goals against average. This kid came a bit out of nowhere because they thought that Blomqvist was going to be their next promising goalie. So is this guy getting, like Nick would say, a cup of coffee in the league this year in the NHL?
You wanna go first? I don't have much to say, so you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Jarry still has 3 years left on his deal. Nedeljkovic still has 2 years left on his deal. I don't see anyone trading for Jarry at that contract.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they get rid of Nedeljkovic and they give him a cup of tea, but for their sake, keep him as far away as possible from this roster. Let him develop in the AHL, and then when you officially take your next step in what is an inevitable rebuild, you start introducing him.
Okay.
I'm not convinced Morozov is necessarily better than Blomqvist.
No, that's it. But because if you look at if you read the past, Blomqvist was the guy.
Yeah, I don't see him taking over, but it's good to have a couple of options on as your goalie future, especially when your current goaltending tandem is so porous. So I don't think Morozov is ready anytime this year for a cup of coffee. If he gets a game or two, it's because of injuries, maybe. But I think we're still looking at the future here and not necessarily anything that's going to be fantasy relevant this year.
Okay.
Blomqvist, for example, is only a year and a half or 2 years older.
Mm-hmm.
And he played in the AHL last year, and he had pretty decent numbers actually. So I still think Blomqvist has the leg up as being the next Pittsburgh guy.
It'll be
AHL is better than the MHL.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they split those starts in the AHL. If they said which they should be sending Morozov to the AHL this year. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on those 2 goalies in the AHL this year. So we'll talk about the other prospects that they have. I'll just shoot some names out. You guys can pick who you guys want to talk about. Braden Yeager, first round pick, high potential. Owen Pickering, who also is a first round, had pretty high potential, but had a bit of an off year in the juniors. So not sure where he lands on this team anymore. Vasily Ponarev, who they got from Carolina in the Gensel deal, if I'm not mistaken. He got a cup of coffee in the NHL last year with Carolina, but still not sure what we're looking for with him. So do any of these guys come out and say, oh, you see them playing a few games in the NHL this year? Joe?
I don't know. Maybe Braden Yeager. Maybe. But not to start the year, definitely. Look, he's shown a very nice progression in his first year with Moose Jaw in the juniors. First full year, I should say, 59 points in 63 games. He upped that the year after, 78 in 67 games. And then last year, 95 points in 57 games. So anytime you have a prolific, what you think is a prolific prospect, you definitely want to see progression, especially in the juniors. Because if you can't do that in the juniors, it's very rare you're going to do it in the AHL and the NHL. and 5 points in 5 games with at the World Juniors with Canada. I see him probably. I think he's playing in the AHL next year. So I do see an opportunity where they could call him up, especially if there's injuries, or maybe they choose to keep him there and give someone else who's a bit older, like Ponomarev or another player they got in the Carolina deal.
Well, Ponomarev is interesting. 5'10" center that Carolina had drafted. High hopes when they drafted him. He did play 2 games and he's at an 82-point pace. So 100% shooting percentage. So he's the next star. No, all kidding aside. He played 39 games for Chicago Wolves last year. And then actually he split time. Long story short, he had 30 points. We're not talking about necessarily somebody that could be a top sixer.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe bottom 6 and best case scenario, maybe middle 6 player, but I don't see him really making any difference fantasy wise. Owen Pickering, Cruz Lucius is another guy that they recently got by trade because Cruz wasn't, I don't think he was a draftee of theirs. They didn't really have anything in their pipeline. So
Well, I think that was the goal of the trade, was to get NHL caliber prospects, not necessarily top prospects.
Well, when you're a team like Pittsburgh that competed for so many years, you're expecting your pipeline to be very thin. So it is what it is.
he's trying to rebuild some of that depth, right?
Yeah, exactly. So final thoughts and prediction. Dom's model has them at 19 best offseason. Hayes might provide a small upgrade on Carter, but Beauvillier is a downgrade on Riley Smith. Another year that might not be fun for Sid, and maybe another year why Sid has not signed his extension. Should we start the promotion Sid to Montreal? No? Come on.
Not interested. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally not kidding. Totally kidding.